Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. For this video, I'm going to show you guys how to structure a proper resume when looking for a role in the tech industry. Previously, I used to work for a company where my job was to look at different resumes and based on your skills and experience, placed you in a tech role. Now, my resume skills or my resume writing skills is based off people that I have spoken to in the tech industries, different recruiters, my resume workshop that I took in school, and also what I have experienced based on which resume worked better for me with callbacks and which resumes did not work for me. So for this video, I'm going to write my resume online using the Microsoft 365. And the reason why I chose Microsoft 365 online, because I want the ability to access this resume from any computer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a blank document. And the first thing that I want to get out of the way is how you should save your resume. So first, you should always save your resume as a PDF file. And the reason why I recommend saving your resume as a PDF file, because PDFs cannot be altered, and also PDF will keep the structure of your resume. If you do send in your resume as a doc file, the structure of the resume can change based on which PC or computer that the person or the recruiter opened up the resume on. Also, when it comes to saving your file, you have to give your resume a meaningful name. You cannot just save your resume as resume.doc and send it in to any type of jobs you're applying for. For example, a recruiter is looking at your resume and something came up where she or he have to step away from the computer and the computer shut down because they forget to put in the charger in, and your resume kind of stood out to them. Now the problem is that they will have to go back and look for your resume, but your resume was not saved properly. Your resume was saved at resume.doc. How am I supposed to find you? How am I supposed to find your name? How am I supposed to find your resume again? Whereas if you saved your resume as johndoe.pdf, I can say, okay, I remember reading John Doe's resume. Let me search John Doe on my computer and see if his resume comes up. So the first thing that I recommend when you're saving your resume, save it as your first name underscore last name and also the role that you're applying for. So for example, this resume that I'm going to show you guys how to write is a resume for a software developer role. So I'm going to save my resume as Nikki underscore Pope, which is my first name underscore last name and underscore. I can put SD for software developer, or I can just write out software dev, something simple as that. Now, the next thing when it comes to writing your resume, you have to be very careful about the font size. Now, your resume font size should be anywhere between 16 and 11 pt. So the biggest font size on your resume or the biggest text on your resume should be your name. So at top, I'm going to say Pope, and I'm going to make my first name and my last name bold, and I'm going to give it a size of 16. So this should be the biggest text or font size on your resume, your name. People need a title. Sometimes I see a lot of people Sometimes I see people do this. I don't recommend or advise that you put your title of your resume on the same line as your name. Before I go on, when it comes to resumes, never put headers or footers on your resume. For example, you would see resumes with headers or footers that will display which page of the resume that they're on. Sometimes the header may also contain the person's name. Now, when it comes to lining your resume or formatting your resume, I always like resumes left aligned instead of center or right aligned. Left aligned look a little bit more readable, a little bit more cleaner. So I'm going to keep my name left aligned instead of center. Now, the next line should be your personal information. So that includes your address, telephone number, email, or If they want to look at your LinkedIn profile, your portfolio profile, all of those information should be on the second line. Now, I do not like, or I will not advocate for having information on different lines. For example, I'm in Toronto, so I'm going to put Toronto, Ontario. I've seen some resume where they go to another line to put their telephone number. So for example, I would see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9. I would see resumes that is structured like this. I don't like seeing resumes like this, only because this takes up a lot of unnecessary spaces on your resume. And coming into the tech industry, especially if you do not have any experience, your resume should be one page. If you are more experienced, then of course you would have a 2-page resume, but most recruiters spend only 7 to 10 seconds on your resume. So you have to be very mindful how you place your information and what type of information to put on your resume. So what I would advise you to do is put all of your information on one line. And yes, you can fit all of your information or your personal information on one line. First, when it comes to your address should always be your city and state, or city and province, depending on which country you're in. You do not put your house number, your postal code. None of those things should go on your resumes. And reason why you don't put your full address is because some recruiters are very strict, or some companies are very strict on the duration or how long you take to get to work. So if you're going to commute 2 hours or 3 hours every day to work, it doesn't make logical sense to a company, because they feel like if you have to get up at 4 o'clock to get into work for 9 o'clock, by probably noon you will be burnt out and you may not perform properly, or you may not perform well. Also, it's a little bit of a safety issue as well to put your full address on your resume. So the state and city that you live in, and that's it when it comes to your location. Now, your font size for your information or your personal information should be about 11, and I will not make it bold. I will just keep it as regular font. So in between the informations on your resume, I like to use the pipe symbol to separate the information instead of tab, because tab can also take up space as well. So your telephone number, then you put your email, nikki@gmail.com. And when it comes to my email, I like to collapse the information. So for example, I will highlight this whole thing, then right click and look for link. So once you see the link option, you're going to click on it and it will bring this up for you. Now, the link should be the link to your email, and the display text, I will just put email, which will give you much more space on your resume to put whatever information you want. So let's do the same for LinkedIn. So I would say www.linkedin.com/Nikki. I'm going to put my pipe. I'm going to highlight www.linkedin.com/Nikki. I'm going to right click. I'm going to look for the link option again. And then here, I'm just going to say LinkedIn. I'm going to put my portfolio website. So I'm going to say www.nikkiinit.com, and I'm going to copy this, right click. Now, you see when I right click this time, it's giving me a different option to add the link, which is okay. So if you do not see the link option by itself, look for the option that says edit link. So either link or edit link will work. And then I'm going to say portfolio. You can say portfolio or portfolio website. Then okay. So any other information that you want to display on that line, for example, if you have any projects you want to display, you can display it here. However, when it comes to entering into the tech industry with no experience, you should have a section that is dedicated to your portfolio. So we're going to get into that a little bit later on. So this should be the information that should be on your resume. If you want to make this a little bit bigger, you can go ahead and do that, which is perfectly fine. But I prefer to leave everything at 11 font size. So the next thing is the title of your resume. The title of your resume should always be a little bit bigger than the information that is on your resume. So the title of your resume is the role that you're looking for. For example, if you're looking for a web developer, that should be the title of your resume. So the title of my resume would be software developer. I'm going to make this bold, and I'm going to give this font size about 14. So for your resume, you can either put your title in the center, just only the title, not the format of the resume itself, or you can leave the title left align. It's your preference. So let's make the title left align. So the next thing we're going to do for this resume, it's up to you if you want to write a summary for your resume or if you just want to go straight into qualifications. As I said in the beginning, most of the recruiters, they only look at your resume for about 7 to 10 seconds. Most of them will probably not read the summary, and they will go for your education, your qualification, and your experiences. So if you are going to write a summary, or if you want to write a summary, then your summary should say something probably to the lines of result-driven software developer with a strong foundation in C, C++, Python, Linux, eager to apply my academic knowledge to a real-world project. Now, the reason why I say apply my academic knowledge is the fact that you do not have working experience. So you have to emphasize on the fact that you have academic knowledge. Academic knowledge also count as well. Most recruiters, if you guys don't know, like people who freshly out of school, because they're bringing new technology into their company. So if you're going to use a summary, then you want to say something along those lines. However, for me, I would like to go straight into qualifications. Now, when it comes to writing the titles of your resume, for example, this is the title of your resume. This is also a title for a section. You have to keep in mind is either you do lowercase or you can do uppercase. For example, let's say I'm going to put this in uppercase. So if I have this software developer uppercase, then I would also advise to put qualifications uppercase as well. So I'm going to, you can also change your name to uppercase as well. So for qualifications, you have to section off your qualifications. And when I say that, I mean for programming languages, and then you list all of the programming languages that you know. So for this section, we are going to change this to 11 font size, and then we're going to leave programming languages bold. However, when we list in our programming languages, we don't want it to be bold. So for your programming languages, you list all of the programming languages that you know. So C, C++. Now, when it comes to listing your programming languages, you can either use a comma or you can use the pipe. Me personally, I prefer to use comma. So I will just list all of my programming languages that I know using a comma. So C++, SQL, Linux, Python, Bash shell scripting, HTML, CSS. Then I'm going to go to operating system. And yes, operating system does count as a skill, especially if you know how to use the Linux operating system. For operating system, put whichever operating system that you know. So for example, I know Windows, Mac, and Linux. We are going to make this bold. Then database, if you know any database, then you would want to list it. So Oracle, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, MySQL. If you know any cloud, then you would list it. So Azure. And you also want to have another section for tools and technology. So for tools and technology, I am going to list Microsoft 365, and Microsoft 365 is definitely a skill to have. In the tech world, it's not always about writing code. You have to know how to document stuff properly. And also Excel is one of the tools in Microsoft that is used especially for data analytics. You can also put Visual Studio Code. Now, Visual Studio Code is, you can make a different section for that and call it IDEs, and list all of the IDEs that you know how to work with. So if you know how to use Sublime Text, if you know how to use Vim, Nano, you can create a different section for IDEs and list all of the environment that you use to write your code. But with me, I'm just going to keep this very simple so you get an idea of how to structure your qualification section. Other tools can be Git/GitHub, and if you know Docker, then you can also put Docker here as well. So for database, let's make this bold. Cloud, we want to make this bold as well. And tools and technology, let's make this bold as well. Now, if you look on the qualifications, we have extra spaces that we don't need. So what we're going to do for qualifications, so everything, we're going to highlight it. Then you want to go to layout. We're going to choose spacing, and we want to space it, leave it as 0. The next section will be your professional experience. Now, here's the thing. You have to know how to structure your resume properly. So if you do not have any experience, then you want to prioritize your education. So your education should come right after qualifications, or if you want to put it before qualifications, it does not matter. If you have experience, then your experience comes before your education. Most recruiters will look at experience first, and the reason why I say most recruiters will look at the experience first, you have to remember, when it comes to the tech industry, you do not need an education to be a great programmer or a great coder. You can be a self-taught developer. So if you're coming into the tech industry without any experience, then your education and your projects should speak for you. So for this resume, I'm going to put my experience, professional experience. And when it comes to professional experience, I also like to section off my experience as well. So when I mean section of experience, you put your role. So for here, I will say IT instructor. I'm going to leave this bold. However, I'm going to make this 11 font size. I'm going to put a pipe, and I'm going to remove bold, and then I'm going to give the name of the company that I worked for. So I'm going to say ABC College and the location of the college. For the college and location, I like to make it italics just to stand out a little. Now you're going to tab all the way to the right, and then you're going to give the date that you started working for that company. So for me, I'm going to say here, for example, 4/20/22 to 5/2024. So when it comes to putting dates on your resume, your dates should be always right aligned. It looks a little bit more readable. The next thing about date is you have to be very mindful of the format of your date on the resume. The dates on your resume all have to have the same format. For example, you cannot use this format and then in another section of your resume you have this format, May 2022 to June 2024. This is not acceptable when you're writing your resume. So if you start writing your resume with this format, it should be the same format throughout your whole resume. Reasons why you want to keep it the same format: not only because it's more readable, it's more presentable, it also helps you if your resume is going through an ATS. Now, if your resume is going through an ATS and the first date format that it meets is this format, it will look for that exact format throughout the whole resume. So let's say the ATS is scanning your resume, it meets this format, then it goes to the next line, meets this format. You can only imagine the chaos you may cause. So it's always best to keep it the same format throughout your whole resume. So I'm going to use this date format here for my resume. Under should be the role that you had while working for that company. So here I'm going to say instructor. I'm going to make this bold, and I'm also going to make it italic. And for this part, you just have to say what you did while you were doing this role. So I'm going to say developed and delivered comprehensive course content in database administration, data analytics, Linux, and SQL. Continuously updates curriculum and conducted research and workshop to stay current with industry advancement. Then you want to say your key achievements. So I'm going to make this bold, and I also want it italics. So for key achievement should be what you achieved while you were working for that company. Now, this is where you are going to put numbers, percentage, just to draw the recruiter's attention. So I can say achieved a 96% graduation rate among students. If you want to go on more about your achievement and what you have done, you can go ahead and do that. Then I want to put the technologies or the tools that I've used while I was working. So I can say technology and tools. So I'm going to bold and also italic. So for technology and tools, I can list SQL, Linux, SQL Server, C, C++, and so on. So you can go ahead and list your professional experience in that way. After personal experience, I would go for projects. Again, I'm going to make this bold and 14 font size. So for projects, you list any of the projects that you have done previously. Now, if you have one experience that is about 6 months to a year, you still need a little bit of projects to go with it. If you do not have experience at all, you do need projects. There is no other way or option to go around it. If you cannot show experience for the role that you're applying for, you need to show them that you can do the job. So for projects here, I'm going to say, for me, ATM software. Then I'm going to use the pipe, and right here I'm going to say GitHub link. So for the GitHub link, you're going to go to GitHub, copy the repository for your project, and you're going to paste it. So I'm going to say www.github.com/nikki/ATM software. Then on that, you're going to give at least 3 points what your project is about. So for the project, I'm going to write dynamically accept and store user data using C++. Then based on user input, software if the appropriate response. And the last thing, software stores data And so these 3 points, we're going to put bullets. You can go ahead and write a second project that you want to display. So for your second project, which I also recommend that you have more than one project to showcase if you are a beginner into the industry. So I'm going to say my next project is going to be sales analysis. And for here, I'm just going to give a GitHub link. And I'm going to say www.github.com/Nikki/DA sales. This here is my link. So I'm going to make this bold. That's what I did above. And I'm going to make the link for here italic. So this is not a link. So this didn't show up as a link for me. So what you want to do, you want to make sure that you make this a link. For here, I can say clean and processed sales data using Python, pandas. Then I can also say identify high trend and insights, create interactive visualization in Tableau to communicate findings. I'm going to select all of it and give it bullet points. So this is the part of the resume where you need to see what's going on in your resume and structure it accordingly. So you see here, the bullet point is a little bit more outwards, and the second example, the bullet point is a little bit more inwards. So you have to go ahead and fix this. The next thing, what I want to do, things that recruiters are looking for, is keywords. So in my resume, I'm going to look for keywords like ETL, and I'm going to bold it. Keywords like a visualization, bold it. Especially if you are editing your resume for each role. You want to look at what the role is for, look at the skills that you're looking for, and if you possess those skills and it's on your resume, bold those keywords. Another thing that you may want to bold, if you have any percentage or any numbers on your resume, you want to bold it as well. The next section, this is where we're going to put our education. So same as what I did above, I'm going to bold with 14 font size. So for education, we're going to have it the same style. So I'm going to put ABC Polytech. It's in Toronto. And then you're going to say the credential that you got. So if you got a degree, you put a degree. If you got a master's, you're going to put master's. If you get a certificate, you're going to put a certificate. So for your education, we are going to bold the name of the school or the name of the college. And we're going to tab, and you're going to put when you went to that college or when you went to that school. So we can say 2019 to 08 2023. Then under, I'm going to say the course that I took in the school: computer programming and analysis. And that's going to be it for my education. Let's say I went to a second college or a second university. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it here. And then I'm just going to say XYZ. And here I'm going to change it to computer engineering. And maybe this one was from, like, let's say 2014 to, let's say, to 2018. Now, if you have certificates, I always recommend you make a different section for certificate. Certificate, we're going to bold it, and then we're going to put it as 14. And under your certificate, you just say where you get the certificate from. Udemy, online. Then I'm going to say when did I take this certificate. So 05/2023. So for the certificate, I'm going to say data analytics. And Udemy, I'm going to bold it. That should be it for your resume. Now let's go and close up some of the spaces just so we can fit our resume on one page. When it comes to your resume, you have to make sure what works best for you. So you have to structure it and make everything look presentable. And those were a lot of mistakes I was seeing on people's resumes. The next thing for a resume, do not put colors on your resume. For example, this, if you want to show that, okay, I had a 96% in advancement or a 96% graduation, I had a 96% money increase. Don't put this green thinking that green is going to represent money. This is not a good way to have your resume. No colors. Your resume should be black and white. Do not put any tables on your resume. Sometimes I see in resumes that have table structures where they list communication skills on one table, and on the next side of the table they will put all of their soft skills. This is not recommended for your resume. Don't section off your resume in half. Have one information on one side and then your next information on the other side. Those type of resumes do not really pass into an ATS. Keep your resume really simple. So that's it for this video. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and I will see you in the next video.